Hi everybody, welcome back to Fountain Pen Deluxe. Today I thought we could talk about one of my favorite ways to personalize my journals and my pouches and stationery bags, and that would be with charms. And the reason I decided to do this video today is because I was shopping for my sister-in-laws and I came across a really cool thing that I think could be used as a planner or bag charm, and they are super affordable. So it just got me thinking about all of the charms that I currently have, and I thought I would go over the ones that I've gotten on my Louise Carmen, the other charms that I've gathered from different places, and some of my favorite places to source charms from, and then talk about the fun, inexpensive charms I found recently at Target. So let's go ahead and get started. As you can see here, I have my Louise Carmen collection in front of us right now. I'll just go through them one by one and talk about the charms that I have from Louise Carmen, and then I'll go over the extra charms that I have put on my bags and notebook covers by myself. So the first Louise Carmen that entered my collection is this beautiful fuchsia Honoré, and I did choose this front Gris from Louise Carmen. It's sort of a jewel with different colored stones, as well as the side Gris. I have a hammered heart, a gold cross, and this ceramic piece that has flowers painted on. I love the colors so much. I enjoy all of these Gris from Louise Carmen. Since this was my first one, I went all out with the customization and the embossing and the Gris everywhere and the cord color, etc. And then my next Louise Carmen rolled around, and that is my beautiful Ernest in Camargue Brown. When I initially purchased it, I chose this jewelry Gris from Louise Carmen that is like a little Art Deco star, which I still love very much. But recently there was a drop of talismans on the Louise Carmen website, so I decided to go ahead and get one because I had been admiring them for quite some time. One thing you might notice about my journal cover charms is that they are all flat with a smooth back and connected on both sides. That is my preference because I've found that that way you don't scratch up the front of your journal. I'm sure we've all seen the gouges that some people have on their covers, and I know some people say just to embrace it as part of the aging process, but I don't prefer that look, so I try to keep my covers gouge free as much as possible and let them patina. I do think that as they patina over time, they'll be a little bit more hardy to handle maybe more rough charms. But yep, so I picked up this talisman from Louise Carmen. It's gold with a moonstone inside of it. And the one thing about buying talismans from Louise Carmen is that as soon as they hit the website, you have to act really quickly to be able to get one, because they go out of stock very quickly and they restock about every 3 weeks, according to the Louise Carmen associate that I spoke with on my last video appointment. And one detail to note is that they'll put a sample of the talisman on the website, so you'll know what color metal you're getting and what stone type it is, but you don't know the exact one that you're going to receive. Some of them have stripes or colors. This one has some crystallization inside. Some have smaller stones and more metal. Some have vice versa. So it's sort of a gamble. When you order it, you don't really know exactly what you're going to get, but most of the talismans I've seen are very beautiful, so it's not too much of a gamble. And on the back of this one, you can see that there is a maker's mark. This is one of Louise Carmen's Bali collection charms, and they recently came out with a few different ones, which I also picked up during my last video call. And that is this one right here. This one has beautiful pink pearls on the side and a shell in the middle. It is sitting in silver, and you can see the 925 on the back to denote that. I appreciate that it's again connected on both sides and flat, so it won't damage the cover. I have found, however, that the skinnier and longer a charm is, the more likely it is to flip around, which I also experienced with this Gris on the front of my Saffron Pocket. Anyway, this one is certainly beautiful, and I had this initially on my Whiskey Honoré, and it looked like that. But because I open this book up so often, because it houses my daily B6 Sterling Ink Common Planner, I prefer just to have a plain cord without a charm, because it just makes it a little bit easier and less finicky to open and close the cover. Besides this jewelry Gris that I purchased with the Ernest, I did not get any side Gris. Those were some that I put on myself, and I think that they came out pretty well. I made a few changes since the last time I talked about the Ernest, but I have a rose from Michaels, a gold-plated heart that I picked up on Amazon, and then this is a bead from one of my favorite bead or charm makers on Etsy called Pluffbeads. They're so cool, and I'll show you the rest of my collection that I have, but they are an independent small maker out of California, and they create the most beautiful and unique jewelry pieces, like strings of beads and chains, so you can disassemble them and make them into anything that works for you or your planner. So I love Pluffbeads and I highly recommend them. They are awesome. After my Ernest, decided to pick up a pocket from Louise Carmen. This is the notebook cover that only has one set of rivets or grommets, and it's meant to act as a wallet. So there are pockets on the inside to hold your cards, and there's a little spot for a pen. It's sort of a funny story. So what happened with this one is there was a charm, a Gris on the Louise Carmen website that I really wanted. And I put it in my cart. I kept trying to check out. It wouldn't let me. It was sold out. Anyway, I became so frustrated that I decided just to forego all customizations on this black leather pocket. And it had, no embossing, no charms, nothing. And when I received it and opened it, I honestly was pretty underwhelmed and disappointed. It felt so much different than when I opened my last two Louise Carmen covers. And that makes me think that, at least for me, the customizations do make a big difference in terms of how I feel about them and how they're unique to me and how I want to use them and reach for them. That was a good learning experience, and I might have this embossed locally at a future date, but I did end up putting on my own Gris, which I think turned out awesome. So here again is a charm from Pluffbeads on Etsy. It is a dangle drop, which is one of my favorite types that they make. And then I have a little black heart with a bee from Michaels, and I have a little tiny heart here, which is also from Michaels and is one of my favorite charms to use on covers that I don't want to have to mess around too much with the charm. And I will go over those in a little bit. But that is my black pocket. And then next up is my Saffron Pocket. This was purchased most recently with my Honoré in Whiskey. They're both dripping Louise Carmen's. And after my experience with my black pocket, I knew that I wanted to do some personalization, so I opted for embossing on the outside and the inside, and I chose a Gris for the front, even though I felt pretty confident that I would be able to find one that I liked, outside of Louise Carmen. And then on the side, these are also from Louise Carmen. There's a mother of pearl circle with my initial on it. I thought it matched the drips nicely. And then the number 1. And honestly, this charm, really both of them are kind of cheap feeling and not very substantial, so I'm going to be changing those up. But I can say that when I opened this, I was much more excited than when I opened the black leather pocket. So lesson learned for me. This Gris is a kyanite stone, and although it is pretty much flat on the back, you can see that it is starting to scratch the leather a little bit. And again, because of this long, skinny charm, it's constantly flipping around like this, and it does not want to stay sitting the way it's supposed to. It looks really nice when it does sit the way it's supposed to. So, note to self, there have also been a lot of conversations recently about whether Louise Carmen upcharges too much for Gris that are mass produced that you can find elsewhere for far less money. Somebody in the Louise Carmen Facebook group found like a 10-pack of these druzy type charms for something like $10 versus on the Louise Carmen website it's something like 20 or 25 US dollars. So although I know that Louise Carmen does source vintage Gris from other countries and they have their own line of special Talisman and Bali Gris, I guess I would just be cautious about the Gris that you do order from Louise Carmen because they just seem to be of slightly varying quality. I used to be of the opinion that Louise Carmen only offered very high quality Gris that even if it was mass produced was chosen because they felt like it met a certain standard of quality. But after receiving this one, I'm not so sure about that. So that is the Saffron Pocket. And then last up, we have the Honoré Whiskey with the dripping effect. This one initially had the pearl Bali talisman on it. I did not opt to get any Gris on the sides, and so I added these myself. You can see here I have more of those drop crystals from Pluffbeads, which I love. And I put these on with a chain because Pluffbeads sells lengths of chain in addition to the jewelry that they sell, which I'll show a little bit up close in a second. So I have this in gold tone, but I also have it in like a vintage brass. So that's what I used there to attach these to the side. And I think they look really nice. And then this right here is actually from a necklace from Claire's, of all places. My daughter wanted to get some hoop earrings and it was like buy 3, get 3 free. And I saw this necklace that had my initial and some other little charms and crystals. So I cut the necklace and I attached it to a jump ring. And now that's on the side of my Honoré as a charm. And I think it looks super cute. So let's talk about some of the other charms that I found that I think are great options for not just Louise Carmen, but any notebooks. These are the smaller charms that I've picked up from Michael's. Here we have hearts and stars. These are really soft edged charms that are very little, but they're very substantial. These are gold toned. One of them is 6mm, the other is 8mm, semi-precious beads reconstituted from hematite. I think that I might add maybe a couple of stars to the Honoré and add some crimp beads to keep them in place because these definitely will not scratch up a journal and they're still small enough that it's not fiddly to open and close the cover. That's why I have the heart on my black pocket. These are also really cute from Michael's, but they are sharper on all sides. So I would be a little bit more cautious with this. I think I might use this eventually to create some type of a side charm. That might be cute, or maybe some type of a bookmark that can hang out. And of course, Michael's has so many other charms to choose from. I have so much fun keeping an eye out for sales to see what else they're going to come out with. I found a locket. This one actually opens, which is fun, so I can put a little photo in there, and that would be cute on the front of a journal or on the side. And I have this black cameo, which I thought would be cute for the side of my black pocket. And then, you know, just random ones like this pink heart lock and key, because you know I'm always buying pink things. So I thought that would match at some point. And then to recreate the side Gris that I initially wanted that I will put up on the screen, I picked these up. These are just little, I guess, crystals. I'm sure that they're artificially colored, but I already took some off and I'm going to stack them in a kind of pleasing way and then have that hanging off of the side on one of my notebooks. So I think that will look really sweet. And now to share a little bit about Pluffbeads and why I love them so much. I mean, you can see that they're all over my journals. but they sell things like this. I'm excited to try these, but I do think that they could be slightly problematic for the leather until it gets a stronger patina. But they sell things like this. It's a connector chain with a larger crystal in the center and then smaller crystals at the sides. So I thought that something like this could be really beautiful on a cover hanging from a cord. You could even hang it from the side. All of these can be taken apart because they're made by hand, so you can take this apart and make it different sizes. I have this pink one that I thought would be nice on my fuchsia Honoré, or really I think it could be beautiful on my Camargue brown Honoré with the powder pink portfolio. So that's really pretty. And then here's an example of some of the jewelry pieces that they make. So they just make ropes of different colored and types of stones. I was thinking that this could also be used as a closure, or you can shorten it up to have it hang on the side. Previously, I had this piece of, what do you want to call this? This piece of necklace, I guess, from Pluffbeads that I connected to an elastic, and I had it like this as a closure. Unfortunately, that is what caused a few of these marks here, because I think this was being squished in the bottom of my purse since I do use it as a wallet. So I took it off, but I'd like to use this at some point in the future. And then of course, more of these drop beads. I thought that the purple could go really nicely with pretty much any book that I have. So I have some of those. I just really, really love their work. I think they do a great job. One more note about Michaels. I also picked up these amethyst circles that are very, very soft and flat. I had these on my notebook for a little while. These worked out great. They didn't cause any issues with the leather. And I think if I put this back on, I would put some type of a stopper here, like a crimp bead, or maybe add a small knot so that they don't come apart. But this would also be easy to open and close without too much issue. Well, this was actually perfect timing because I just received an unexpected package in the mail of a planner charm that I spontaneously bought after seeing a post in the Louise Carmen Facebook group. And somebody's sister creates fabric flowers, and she made her sister a fabric flower planner charm for her planner. And of course, the great thing about it is that there's nothing rough on it. You don't have to worry about it messing up your leather. There's a thin strip on the back of it so you can slide the elastic inside so it stays secure. I think it looks amazing on the Ernest. It matches the portfolio perfectly, but I think it looks just as good on the Fuchsia Honoré. I really think I probably have to get another one. I was going to at first, but then I thought, well, maybe I'll check it out first and be reasonable for once. But anyway, I just had to cut into the video to share that with you. PrettyPetalsByLucy on Facebook and Etsy. Highly, highly recommend. And now let's talk about the fun little thing that I found at Target recently. And you can let me know if you think I'm crazy or if you think this is a good idea. Basically, they're lip charms, and the idea is that it comes with a little poking tool, and you get a lip gloss and you poke a small hole through the plastic, and then there's a lobster clasp so that you can hang your lip gloss on your purse or your keys and carry it with you. And it has all of these adorable charms, and these were like $5, which I think is awesome because you can scavenge all of these different charms from them, and they come in such cute designs. This one obviously is a balloon dog, and I love the color. And they have cherries, 3D. I thought this one was really nice. It's pearls. Some of them have little crystals on them, and then a bow. And I've seen so many people put bows on their covers, and of course it looks adorable. So either on the side or on the front. They even had this waffle lip charm that has a little waffle and a little butter, a spoon, and a knife. I just think that these are adorable, and they could be removed from this larger piece here. They have little slits in them, so you could take a pair of pliers and open that up. As an example, here is the dog charm that I put with a pluff bead which is a little bit too much, I'll admit, on this little Pip tool pen case. I'm constantly adding charms to anything. Here's my small Delphonics bag with a little charm that I picked up at a gachapon. And I'll even put things on my TSL tote. This was from a blind bag that my daughter and I did. Anyway, I think that for $5, these are a great deal. Yeah, Target is the way to go. I actually picked this one up for my sister-in-laws because we went to Nashville this year. So it has a little boot and a little hat and a snake that even has a tiny little crystal for an eye. So yeah, just so many fun ways to use these, I think. One other tip is that I often scavenge pieces of jewelry that have broken or other little charms that have fallen off of bracelets, random beads that I've found. This is actually a stitch marker that I made because I'm also a knitter, but you know, something like that could be really cute. And sometimes I think it's helpful to have them on a lobster clasp because then you can easily change them out without having to get your pliers out. It's so much fun. And I think that if you're like me and you need some novelty for every now and then, it's a great option to change up your covers and make them a little bit more personal to you. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to mention today. I just thought that these were such an interesting idea and I hadn't heard of these before. I think I'm going to add the pearl maybe to my fuchsia Honoré. I feel like that would be a good addition since I'm thinking about using it for the Our Studio research journal this year. I took some of them off so I can just show you maybe a little bit better how that might look. It would look something like this, hanging off the side. Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. What would this cherry look like? Maybe the cherry would be cute. I think my favorite is the balloon dog. The cherry might actually be nice on the dripping because it's so crazy and it does have some red in it. Let's just see what that would look like. I would probably take this off and I would just connect it with a jump ring so that it's not moving all over the place. Well, actually, if it has this lobster clasp, you could just use that. Could just remove the larger piece. So yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for joining me and let me know if you have any questions and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.